Well, as President-elect Trump chooses his closest White House advisors, we thought it would be interesting to check in with a man who has become something of an expert on leadership and what makes incredible people incredible. My next guest is the host of one of the most popular podcasts out there and the author of a brand new book that's just out this week called Tools of Titans, about the tactics, routines, and habits of billionaires, icons, and world-class performers. Joining me now, Tim Ferriss. In the book, I mean, it's a hefty read.
It is. Long subtitle, too.
It could be double as a weight. We're going to get into this. But your podcast, I mean, you have like 100 million downloads. You've talked to some of the most interesting, most famous, most dynamic people in the world. How did you get into that?
It was actually never intended to be anything successful, business or otherwise. I wanted to take a break from writing, and I was very involved in Silicon Valley with investing and knew a lot of the top investors. So I decided to just have wine and try to tease out the habits and routines that I could borrow from these people.
So you're saying if we all just drink a little wine,
Step
then
one.
We'll be, that's it.
It's the holidays, maybe some eggnog, but I was surrounded by people I wanted to pick for answers and tips. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed. Sometimes I have a challenge or a problem. I wanted the cliff notes from these people. So that's how the podcast started.
And so you had these long interviews with some really, really interesting people. And it made me wonder, do you consider yourself a titan of the social media realm, of anything, really?
I wouldn't consider myself a titan. I don't even view myself as a writer. I view myself as an experimenter. So I try everything that I gather from these people, and only if it works in the reality of everyday life, that mess that is reality, then I end up writing about it.
What's been the weirdest thing that you've ever done, ever tried?
Oh, man. The weirdest thing would be probably different combinations of sports performance products like exogenous ketones or resveratrol for endurance. Not all those turn out very well. I also was forced by Rick Rubin, legendary music producer, to interview him. He made it a condition we had to do it in his barrel sauna, which is like 250 degrees. So that was quite the experience.
That's slightly dangerous.
The microphones burned all of our hands.
Okay.
But fortunately, he has an ice bath, and then you do both.
So it's not without risk, your work, but you're able to talk to these really interesting people, and that's what your book does, is it condenses some of the podcasts, a lot of them, into digestible bits for folks to read. So tell us a little bit about why you decided to do that, and what do you think is some of the most interesting parts of this 600-page book? So
the book was never intended to be a book. I wanted to take the 10,000 pages of transcripts or so and distill it down to just the gems that I could use as cliff notes. So it's broken into healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I laid it out for myself. And when I got about halfway through it, I was like, okay, this thing is going to be a book. So I might as well share it with my readers. And some of the advice, for instance, range from weird gadgets, like there's something called the chili pad that you can use. It's a thin sheet you put under your normal sheet. You can set it to a precise temperature, and it's just revolutionized my sleep and many other people's sleep. That was also from Rick Rubin. That's why I brought it up. There are other bits of advice, like listening to specific guided meditations in the morning. Some of the most productive people, about 80% of the people I interviewed, have something like this. So there's one, it's totally free, 2010 Smile Meditation by a woman named Tara Brach, B-R-A-C-H, is listened to every morning by some of the top performers that I interviewed. And it goes on and on. But the beauty of it is that they're all, like you said, these bite-sized bits. So I wanted to be able to sit down no matter what the problem or goal I had with a cup of coffee. By the time I finished my cup of coffee, to have something that I could test.
And I have to attest to that as well. As I was looking through the book, I just got it this morning, is that you're able to just kind of pick it up, get a little bit of wisdom, something to think about, put it back down, and then reapproach at a later time, which is nice considering that everyone is so busy. I'm just curious, after having so much to fill 600 pages, who do you really want to talk to? Who's next on your list?
You know, there are a few folks. One, everybody would know, Oprah. I'm just endlessly fascinated by Oprah.
And Jamie Foxx actually calls you the Oprah of the internet, by the way.
He does. Yeah, Jamie's a very, very kind guy, and arguably the most complete, consummate entertainer I've ever met. So I would say Oprah. There's also a fiction writer named Neil Gaiman, who's just an incredible polymath, is so good at so many different areas. I would love to talk to him about what the common threads are.
Okay, so people are thinking, wow, he's talked to all these great people, but he obviously has and you've achieved some great success as well. And I saw that you just posted something online today about some of the tips that you're passing along about how to, for all of us, to sort of elevate our game, if you will. What do you think is one thing people should think about as they near the end of the year? We're going into a new year. We got a new president. If someone wants to reset.
If someone wants to reset, I would say, number one, more important than New Year's resolutions, is looking back at the last year and doing a post-game analysis. I do that every December 31st. So I sit down and I will look at effectively doing an 80-20 analysis. In real simple terms, that means I'm looking at the 20% of activities, people, and so on that gave me 80% of the results or joy that I want in my life, and then also looking for the 20% of activities or people, commitments that cause me 80% of the negative emotions that I don't want in my life. And just by really journaling on that for, say, 2 pages, that will tell you much more about what you should do than trying to pull out of thin air 3 or 4 or 5 things for a New Year's resolution, which are probably the same 3 or 4 you had on the last year's New Year's resolution.
I thought one of the best points is that if the answer is not simple, it's probably not the right answer.
Exactly, yeah. So when you're looking for answers to complex problems, the answers don't need to be complex at all. And really, I mean, that was the goal of Tools of Titans, was to collect simple, precise tidbits and answers that you can apply. And I did it for me, but it turns out that my fans and readers want the same thing.
Yeah, it's very cool, very interesting. A hefty gift, by the way, just because it is that time of year. Tim, it's great to have you on the program. Thank you very much. It's great to have you in